Bob's Boneyard, where we're all about barkers, blood, books, boxes, and burps. In this episode, I'm going to be reviewing the horror movie X. It is a brand new horror movie directed by Ty West, so I just saw it in theaters a couple days ago, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to do a review on it. It's also an A24 film, and I love A24. X is starring Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega. Jenna Ortega is actually one of my favorite actors at the moment. I noticed that she's been doing a lot of horror, and that's what I want to do as an actor, so I really look up to her. She was also in the new Scream, and she was in the TV series You, and she's just really cool. Before I go into spoilers, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the plot. So it's this group of people, and they are on their way to go make an adult film. And when they get to their filming location, it gets bloody and slashery, and that's when it becomes a horror film. So the main horror elements are blood and gore and slasher. On my blood scale, I would give this 3 pints of blood out of 5. So it's got a good amount of blood and it's really fun, but it's not over the top bloody. And then I also just wanted to say that even though this movie is about these people making an adult film, so obviously they're having sex on camera, there are also some really cool themes and some very visually beautiful shots, and it has themes that are deeper than just let's go have sex. So I thought that it was a really great film. So now I'm going to go into the details of the fun, bloody parts. So if you haven't watched this movie yet and you want to, I would stop watching here. Otherwise, if you want to hear about all the grisly details, that's what's gonna happen. So in the very beginning, it has the cops showing up to the crime scene where they made the movie, and it's got, dead bodies around, and they're like, oh, what happened here? And then it goes into, like, what does it say, like 24 hours earlier or something like that. I can't remember the exact amount of time. But anyway, it gets to them, and one of the first foreshadowing things that happens is on their way there, they see this dead cow on the road that got hit by a truck and is bleeding, and its guts are all over the place. And the main girl says, oh, I hate blood and guts, which is funny because it's like, oh, well, that's what's gonna come up soon. A lot of blood and guts, even though she doesn't know it. So when they get to this filming location, they're renting this little, what's it called when there's a house behind the house? Like a guest house. That's where they're gonna be filming, and it belongs to this old couple that are kind of creepy. And they disapprove of what they're doing, but at the same time, the old woman is kind of jealous, and she looks through the window and spies on them, and she's kind of aroused when she sees what's happening. So she goes later in the night, one of the guys is by themselves, and she goes up to him and she's kind of like trying to be like, hey, let's do that. And she's this old woman, and he's like, no. And so she stabs him in the neck, and he falls over, and then she continues to stab him in the neck over and over again until he's like almost decapitated. Not completely, but that's how many times she stabbed him in the neck, because she was mad that he rejected her. The main girl, the one that's the survivor at the end, her name is Maxine, and the old woman that is the killer, her name is Pearl, and Mia Goth actually played both of them, which I didn't even notice until the movie was over. I don't know how I didn't notice it. I guess they did a really good job with the makeup. But they had Mia Goth in all that old people makeup, and they made her look super like skinny and bony and old, and she's a really good actor. I literally did not realize it was the same girl. So that was pretty cool. So keep that in mind if you watch it, if you haven't seen it yet. I didn't even realize that. Another fun death is this guy named Wayne, who he goes into the barn looking for the guy that's already dead. And before he gets killed, he steps on a nail and it goes in his foot, and it's like, ow, and he's like, oh, help me, I stepped on a nail. And then he goes to the end of the barn, and there's a hole in the door, and he looks through it to be like, where are they? And Pearl is on the other side, and she has a pitchfork, and she stabs it through the hole, and it sticks in his eyes, and then when she pulls it out, the eyeball comes out with it, and you see him laying dead on the ground with his eyeball next to his head. That was really cute. So Jenna Ortega's character is Lorraine, and she's kind of seen as the more innocent one, like the young one that isn't as sexual as the rest of them, even though she really is. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. But she gets kidnapped by the old man, and he locks her in the basement. And while she's down there, she sees this corpse, and it's of this man that was missing, that earlier in the film you saw him on a milk carton that was like missing man. You know how they used to do that on milk cartons? So she's freaking out, and eventually she gets an axe and she slams on the door and sticks her hands out to try to unlock it. But the old man is there, and he has, I don't remember if it's a knife or a hammer or something, but anyway, he whacks the heck out of her fingers, and you just watch her fingers getting sliced and broken and all mangled, and it was a really cool effect. Eventually, Maxine, she's the one that was like the main porn star girl, she comes into the house to rescue Lorraine, and Lorraine's like, oh my god, I hate you, this is all your fault. And she runs out and she immediately gets shot and she falls dead, which I thought was kind of funny. And also, just from a horror movie perspective, Lorraine is the one that you would think would be the survivor girl, because she was kind of the quiet, innocent, less sexual girl. And Mia Goth played the porn star that was like, I'm a star, and had all the sex, and you see her naked in the movie, and she's the one that stereotypically would be the one that would die, and Lorraine would stereotypically be the one that would live. So I really loved how they just shot her dead, and how Mia's character is the one that actually ended up being the survivor girl. And I also feel like this movie was empowering when it came to sexuality and not shaming women for having sex, as some horror movies do, which, you know, is fine. I still love those horror movies because I just love the blood and the guts and the horror and all that fun stuff. But it was still unique and exciting to see that. Towards the end of the movie, Pearl, the old woman, who's also played by Mia Goth, she has this shotgun that she shoots at Maxine, but it's like a really strong blast, so it like hits her. You know how when you shoot a gun, if it's really strong, it like kind of pushes back? I wouldn't know, I haven't shot a gun. But that happened, and so she fell back and she broke her hip, and she's like, I broke my hip. And Maxine is like, sucks for you, you just tried to kill me, I'm not gonna help you. So she takes the keys, she gets in the car, but before she drives away, she makes sure to back up over Pearl's head, and it goes smashes, and then she drives away, and she is the winner. So those are the fun, gory details. There's, you know, a few other little things that I left out. If you want to see all of the deaths and all of the details and all the other stuff that happens, all the sex stuff, go ahead and watch the movie. It really is worth it, and it's not, for something that's about porn, it's not very pornographic. Like, you see boobs and stuff, but they actually, I feel like, were very classy about this. Another scene that I want to mention that's one of my favorites that wasn't even a horror part. It was just really cinematically beautiful. One of the other porn stars, not Maxine, but her name is Bobby Lynn. She actually dies by getting eaten by an alligator. But anyway, she starts singing this song, and it's a split screen, and it shows her singing, and then it also shows the old woman, and how it shows her like putting makeup on in the mirror, and she's really bony, and she's looking at herself, and it's like a reflection of her regretting, I guess, things that she could have done. Like, it's implied that she didn't live a wild life, and that's why when she spied on these kids that she was kind of jealous, and then tried to hook up with one of them, and she sees herself now as this old woman, and she's just full of like sadness and regret while the other girl is singing. And it's really hard to explain, but it was just really beautiful. So that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Leave me a comment if you've seen X. Tell me what you thought about it. And if you have any other movies you'd like me to review, let me know in the comments. See you next time. So the main horror melons